Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this. Hello! Welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash
And Becky.
Hope you are all well on this whatever day you're listening to us talk.
Yeah.
Today, our podcast episode is going to be a bit more of a chatty, kind of informal one.
Yeah.
Actually, we were just talking about this before we were recording, and this is the type of episode that we were really imagining sharing when we came up with the concept for the podcast, wasn't it? When we were walking around the woods, walking the dogs, and having these conversations that just kind of came into being, where we were like having these deep conversations about the world and seeing it from this new point of view, this kind of spiritual, kind of expanded consciousness point of view, but then relating it back to our everyday experiences and just showing how having this kind of expanded awareness and consciousness of seeing the bigger picture of the world, how it can truly transform how you live your life in the mundane, like everyday struggles and experiences that you face. And that's what we wanted to share, wasn't it? Because we would walk out of the woods and feeling like empowered and like, oh my God, we need everybody to feel this and hear this, because it was genuinely helping us live our lives in a much more empowered, feeling more in control kind of way, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's how this one's probably going to go, isn't it? We think
we
because
hope
it could
so.
go anywhere.
Yes,
really.
Let's tell them what we're talking about. Obviously, you have an idea because of the title. But what we want to talk about today is how you can empower yourself in your life by using your intuition.
Yeah.
But don't think that because we're saying by using your intuition, it's kind of going to be a very woo-woo, nature. The reason we want to do this, again, the whole point is by bringing in these spiritual kind of concepts and the spiritual part of you and fusing it and merging it with the real kind of physical reality, everyday experiences that we're living, because we are humans.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about using your intuition, it's about listening to yourself and your own feelings. And I think this is what we really want to hit home in this episode, isn't it? That our aim with all of this, with this podcast, really, like our big, wide aim and mission is to empower you to know that you have all the answers, like to feel that you are in control of your own life.
Take it
so
back.
much more than you realize. And that's what we and by doing that, by like giving you this knowledge and opening your awareness to how we have now see the world, and then it's been a journey, hasn't it? And that's what we wanted to share. We've seen how by throwing ourselves in this world, by seeing our reality from this spiritual expanded awareness consciousness state, our lives have improved
Definitely
dramatically. We have a whole new way of coping and dealing with the world, with that underlying feeling of everything is working out, I have control. And yes, there are always going to be experiences and things, that situations that happen in life that are out of your control. We all know that, the loss of someone, for example, things that happen in your life, like divorces, breakups, losing your job, all of that stuff. there are parts that you are in control of, but there's other things that are just chucks at you. The whole point of this is that you have the strength and the belief in yourself that whatever happens, whatever the external circumstances that get thrown at you that you aren't in control of, you will be able to deal with and cope with in a way that leaves you feeling empowered and in control. And the best way of doing that is to learn to listen to your intuition. Listen to how you feel and what feels right for you.
And drown everybody else out.
Yes.
Just focus on yourself and what is right.
Yeah. And there's so much there's so much within this, isn't there? Like within, you know, because when you start listening to your intuition and you start learning to listen to your intuition, you're building up your self-belief, which obviously affects all aspects of your life as well, all areas of your life. You're building up your confidence, which allows you to go out and do more things and be more and put you into action. There's so much you gain from just simply building up your intuition. But it's a journey and it's a practice, isn't it? And there's so many things that need to be done in order to help you do that. But the first thing, as I always say with anything, is awareness. So it's like, so in this episode, I think, because we can do future episodes where we can actually talk about how to build up your intuition. And that can be quite fun, can't it? But I think in this episode, we just want to bring awareness to the fact that if you are not listening to your intuition, if you are drowning out your intuition, you are seriously missing out on a lot. And that's kind of what we want to bring your awareness to, because at the end of the day, if you are not listening to your intuition, if you are not listening to your gut, like however you want to call it, your inner knowing, whatever, then you're basically following someone else's program. You're following someone else's thoughts and beliefs that you are thinking are right, but they are just not, and they're not right, and you don't have to do it. And therefore, if you're not following your intuition and you're following someone else's thoughts and beliefs, you're on autopilot, which means you're not in control. And this is the work that I do on a daily basis with people. I help, you know, my clients get out of autopilot, get out of running their behaviors and their thoughts and their actions and their feelings on somebody else's programming.
Exactly.
And when you do that, when you find the awareness and then you start breaking down these programs that you're running on, you step out of autopilot, you're back in the driver's seat, and that is when things get exciting. That's when you feel empowered. That's when you realize you have so much more control, and that's when everything in your life changes, and you become the creator, the conscious creator, again, because we explained this in the manifesting episode. You're always creating, but you become the conscious creator of your reality. And that's exciting. It is. And we can all do it. But we're not. Hence this episode. So where should we, like, what so again, what we thought that was useful when we were walking around thinking about doing this podcast and having these conversations in the woods is that we were talking about it because of things that came up in our everyday life at the time.
That's right.
And we would always bring it, no matter what was happening to us in our everyday life, whether we'd had an argument with our other halves, or the kids, something was going on with the kids, or, you know, some kind of issue going on with a family member or friend, whatever it was, we always brought it back to this kind of way of seeing things through this spiritual, expanded consciousness lens, didn't we? And that's what and it would always come back to the same thing.
Always.
So I suppose, should we think of an example?
Yeah. So for me in my life, it would be the fact that I've taken both of my children out of school, and with my older son, it was not flowing, shall we say, in the same way. But of course, I was going against the grain, taking him out. You know, it's what everyone tells you not to do. They should be in school. They should be doing this. They should be doing that. But he wasn't well enough to be there. So we had no choice. But I was pushing against it. It's not what I wanted to be doing. That's not what I had. I didn't want him at home. You know, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. That's not what we've been taught. you have to send your children to school. You're a bad mother if you don't send your children to school. Can you not even get them there?
And what's going to happen? Who are they going to even turn out to be if they don't go to school? If they don't have qualifications,
that's right.
Oh, they're going to turn out to be nothing. They'll never succeed.
Right. And all you hear is, but GCSEs. And it's such a long process, isn't it? Like you say, it's such a journey to get your head around.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good year, wasn't it, of us, like having these conversations about this situation.
And really, it was all about, how am I going to get him back into school?
Yeah, fighting to get him back into school.
Yeah.
And things were getting worse, weren't they?
Yeah, not better. But that was so of course that was a whole journey. Eventually let go of the fact that everyone's saying GCSEs, and I sort of had a moment and I thought, well, hang on a minute, what did I take from school? Did I need those GCSEs in what I'm doing now? Did my husband, did my dad, did my brothers? No, they didn't. They'll be, forget that. That's not important. What's important is that we're all happy and healthy and alive. So I let go of that. But that was really difficult, because that is literally going against everything that they drum into you, even us as parents, how they drum it into you from, reception years.
Yeah. And again, we need to really point out that this wasn't a decision that you took one lightly or did that quickly.
No.
It took a good year, didn't it, for you to kind of just say, let go, and this is what I need to do.
Yeah, let go of that. It's okay. He'll do what he needs to do. We'll look after him, and it'll all turn out okay. So then, when it came to my daughter having her anxiety issues, and again, dragging her into school, making her go, and nothing was changing. It's like that, what's the definition of madness? Keep doing the same thing and expect it to be any different. And for us, that was not working at all. Of course, I'd already been through the whole process of letting go of how important qualifications are. To some, marvellous, but not, I've seen it for myself, not a necessity. There's ways around these things.
Yeah.
And it's not the right time. So this was a lot easier. Take her out of school, deregister, everything gets better for her. She looks well again. She's happier. She's still able to learn because she hasn't got depression. Everything is flowing. And yet I'm doing everything. If I told myself, 5 years ago even, that this would be a decision I would willingly make, I think, well, you're nuts. That's not what you're supposed to do. No, listen to everybody else, what they're telling you to do. Well, guess what? That's not working for her. And now she's come out. She's better. She's better than she's ever going to be going there. In that environment, in that, with the learning, with the all the anxiety she's got. That's just not the right place, and I understand that now.
Yeah.
Whereas I tried to get her, I tried to keep pushing again, because I thought, no, don't just give up, keep going, keep doing what you're supposed to do. So even after, my son being at home, I was still trying to keep her in, still learning, still going through that whole process. And actually, when I did it, I kept her at home with me, and everything's got better. That's my intuition as well, isn't it? That's my that's proof that it's working. That's what I feel like, in talking spiritually, that's what they want for her. That is their path. It felt right. So it didn't feel wrong. Everything's flowed. Like when my son came out, he was too poorly really, so I can't really compare. So things weren't automatically better because we had to get him well again. But with Nick, she's just flourished.
Yeah.
So it's right for us, isn't it? That's how I see it. We're lucky that we can do that, that I'm at home and I can do that for her. So of course not everyone can do that. But the fact that it's flowing says to me, this is right. And that's my intuition as well, saying, no, this is what her path is. Don't listen to everybody else, what everybody else is telling you. You don't have to do what you're told.
And also, you having to have conversations along the way of, don't listen to what my mind is telling me as well, because along the way you did have to fight your mind. Oh, but maybe I should take her in, maybe I should push her a little bit more. Again, not so much with Nick, but especially with Harry, you're not just fighting with other people's thoughts and opinions, you're fighting with your own programming as well, weren't you? And that was a massive lesson for you to learn that, okay, yes, my conscious mind is saying this, but that's because I'm programmed to be the good girl, the girl that follows the rules. Like, I've always been a girl that follows the rules, so I have to do it for this. But yet your heart, your emotion, your intuition was telling you this doesn't feel right to me. And that's a bit of that was a fight. That's what took you the time, wasn't it? To learn to put your feeling and your intuition before your mind.
That's right.
And the conditioning.
Because, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, to be a good mother, you send your children to school. And that's all I wanted to be, was a good mum. So I had to let go of that. And what everybody else, if you listen, which I wasn't, but if you go on these things or listen to these programs or on the news, I don't listen to any of that anymore, because I'm not interested in what anyone else is doing. Because that's fine. I think everyone should just be allowed to get on with what they feel is right. You don't have to have this universal rule. And we are lucky in this country, because apparently I think we're the only country in Europe, I don't know if that's right, but that can take our children out of school.
Oh, really?
Apparently. Someone told me in the barbers.
Barbers.
So I don't know if that's right, but apparently his wife happened to be like a homeschool educator. So he obviously had some knowledge there. But we're lucky that we can actually take them out, and we don't have to follow the curriculum. You don't have to do any of that, as long as you can prove that you are giving them some kind of education. Right. So, but that's so hard to get your head around, isn't it? That's not easy either. It's much easier to just send them off to school every day. That's probably why I was like, oh no, I didn't sign up for this.
Exactly. Like,
this is my time.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you did, and I think again, it's kind of what for you, the best way for you to learn that lesson was through your children, because they were everything to you, aren't they? They were the biggest thing in your life. Like, that was your purpose. They are your purpose, aren't they?
Absolutely. And Harry taught me everything. I'm sure he came here to teach us all and to help his sister out as well, because he taught me everything that I know now, because he was having none of it. And he would articulate it in such a way that I couldn't argue with him. Like, he just spoke such sense, what he was saying, how he felt. I couldn't ignore it anymore.
And I think that's interesting to talk about as well, isn't it? Because, he was saying things like, I mean, for example, I'm thinking what you're talking about is when he was saying, when I go into school, the teachers don't respect me. So why should I give them respect if they don't give me respect? It's these kind of things, isn't it? That he
and
would
how
be
do you
saying.
argue with that?
And how do you argue? Because again, this goes back to our programming and societal programming. It's like, especially when we were younger, well, the teachers, the law. And you do what the teacher says. And the teachers can speak to you however you want. Let's be honest, we can all think back to our school days and think there were some teachers that were dicks. Like, seriously.
I just said
it. There were. And they were so rude. And they would treat children like rubbish. And you just had to go, yes, miss, and cave in. In what world do we truly, when we think about that, but we just accepted it. We did accept it. And the kids that didn't play the game, and I'm again talking from my personal experience, being a good girl, coming up with the good girl programming, they're so naughty. I can't believe such naughty kids. But actually, when you think about it now, why would you want your children to be brought up to think that they are subservient to these horrible people? Like,
because if you were at work, you would not accept that behaviour. And you would be straight to HR. And I think the difference as well now in society with this whole hashtag be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. And it's like Nick said, they tell everybody to be kind all the time. And yet then they are anything but kind in the way that they speak to their students. And some students can just let it roll off them. Which is good.
And they can let it roll off them in terms of, okay, they don't then have the anxiety and struggle to get into school like your children did, or like Nick did. But it doesn't roll off of them, and this is the point.
True.
It's being absorbed in their programming.
Yeah.
So how can you teach children at this vulnerable age? You know, we know about kids living in hypnosis until they're 7, but we're programmable all our lives. We're highly programmable between 0 and 7, but we're still programming ourselves throughout life. So then we're still teaching our children, yes, you have to bend to the will of others if they're telling you to do something, even if it doesn't sit right with you, even if it's unfair, even if it's wrong. But then at some point we then expect you to actually talk up for yourself, like speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself.
Oh, it's so confusing.
You can't do it.
No.
And I think, you know, for Harry, again, you know, there would have been, when I was younger, if I'd have heard him saying those things, I'd have been like, oh, he's just a rebel.
A rebel,
yeah. You know, like,
just do what you're told.
But actually, they're talking sense.
Yes.
This is what we want our children to be thinking.
Yeah.
And this goes into kind of my spiritual view of how I personally, it's my opinion, that these new souls coming into the world now of our children
that we're calling probably the neurodivergence,
ADHD, autism, Asperger's, all of, you know, all of that. I think they are just coming in more prepared than we are, because they're here to make a change. Like, these kids are coming in already saying, no, I'm not listening to the system. No, that's not right. That doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that just because I'm told.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I believe are coming in to disrupt this society.
They're not taking that programming.
No.
Like, we took it.
Exactly.
And we knew. It was almost like, when you think back, it almost feels like a bit of you know, a drama scene when you think back to school, and you think how you may have been spoken to as a class at school, and you were switched off to it, weren't you? You just accepted it. But if we were able to think for ourselves at that point, we would have said, well, you've contradicted yourself there. You've just told me to be kind over here, and then you're being unkind over there. You know, and that seems to be what my two are doing. And I think a lot of children that are like the neurodivergence are doing, they're questioning things, like you say. They're not accepting that programming, even though they've got a mother at home saying, well, you know, that's what it's like at school. It's what it was like for me. You know, don't be so sensitive. Don't take it personally. And yet no amount of me saying that to them would change that programming. And yet it's their mum telling them. They've been brought up to do what you're told, which is why they were obviously able to mask so well, because I was keeping them to fit in their spots and make them socially acceptable, which was really great, because, you know, they got friends and they can, you know, they are socially acceptable children. But it's also damaged them in a lot of ways, because they've been suppressed and they've been, you know.
And I think this is where we can go back to kind of like, again, it's getting us all of us, to step into listening to what we are feeling in ourselves, because we're getting it all the time. We're having these feelings, this intuition coming through, but we're not listening to it. We're allowing our conscious mind with which is, you know, and our unconscious mind with the programming to kind of guide us. And the problem is when you do that, you're coming off your path. Your intuition is, again, in my opinion, the way that this higher consciousness, this higher part of you, this infinite intelligence that we are all linked to, it's the way you are receiving it. It's the way you're receiving this information. This information in the field is available to everybody at all times. And the information is always for your highest good. It is always gonna work out the best for you. And when you think about that, and again, I say in my opinion, but this is from studying neuroscience, studying consciousness, studying quantum physics, working with the subconscious mind practically, experientially, like I do in my job with the past life regression, with the normal, you know, hypnotherapy that I do, and with my own lived experience. So this isn't just an idea that I'm plucking out of the ether. Maybe it's because that's what we're talking about here, but you know what I mean. Like, this has been put together because, again, I have a very critical, logical thinking mind. I like science, I like facts, but I also have faith in the unseen world as well, and they come hand in hand. So I'm gathering all this information together from many sources, and most importantly from experience, plus even important, it's my intuition. It feels right, it feels the truth, and when you listen to your intuition, that's what it feels like. When something feels right to you in your body, you when it feels true, when it resonates with you, you feel it, everything feels good. And you might get that feeling even when it logically it shouldn't feel good. The thing that you're feeling good about shouldn't feel good. And this is the problem. This feeling is often very much ignored or unnoticed by us because it's subtle. Whereas our conscious mind, the ego, the programming side of things, is so loud and so screamy, and it overpowers. And it's mostly fear, because it's coming from survival and protection. And so you hear that and you listen to that. But when you listen to your intuition, like, that is where you are going to feel good. That is when your life is going to start working out for you.
And that's your proof as well, isn't it? That proof. You followed the right path. You know, it might be a journey to get there. You're pushing against it. But if that thing won't go away and you surrender, and then you get the evidence of everything's getting better, you know, don't you? That's, you know,
it's you. And again, this is where, so it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're sat here with pulling both your kids out of school and them not being in school. I'm sat here very much for school. And yet we can both feel comfortable and know that just because I don't feel that is right, what you're doing is right for me and my children, does in absolutely no way mean that what you're doing for your children is not right. And this is a really big conversation, isn't it? Because in the world at the moment, so many people have an opinion
on everybody else,
else. And also, people don't realize that opinions are opinions and not facts. And it's great because it's like, whenever we talk about these things, it's all a bit of a paradox, isn't it? Because we are saying to you now, you need to follow your own intuition and have your own opinions and have your own thoughts. That's really important. But what's also equally important is that you don't force what's your thoughts and what your beliefs are and what your feelings are on anybody else. Because it's got nothing to do with you. Everybody has their own intuition. Everybody has what feels right for them. And if we could all understand that we have our own opinions and we follow what feels right, but what feels right for us doesn't mean that it's right for everybody else. This, I feel like, again, going back to our overarching mission of what's happening in the world right now, and what I feel like we need to be a part of, is helping and showing people to understand that this concept, that we have to trust ourselves and just know that that's right for us, but not force it on other people.
No,
exactly.
I just can't stand that.
And why are we forcing these opinions? Because most of the time, because you've been programmed to believe it, or you've been programmed to think that way, or you're so, on autopilot that someone else will say it and you'll just take that on as your own.
And do you think it's yours? The fear a little bit? You know, like, say, for example, I was one of those, sort of activist types that wanted everybody to follow me and what I was doing because, look, it's working for me, you should all be doing it. But also maybe my fear of that I'm not doing what society tells me to do, and I don't want anyone to look down on me for that. So I'm going to get angry and I'm going to try and convince everybody else that it's the right way that you should all be following me. It's a bit like what just popped into my mind, like the breastfeeding debate. And we used to get annoyed, didn't we? It's like, just leave everybody alone. You make your own decision. That's your baby. Great. Whatever you want to do, you do.
Exactly.
I just couldn't understand these other mothers as well, other women on other women when they know how hard it is to be a mum, to then push their agenda onto you when, you know, it's absolutely, what relevance is it to them what their another baby receives, as long as they're being cared for, you know. And it's like, you don't, it's that sort of way of thinking that we need to get rid of, and everyone lives in, that's the way we all live in harmony, isn't it?
Well, I think, and I think that's the thing, right? So when you are trusting your own intuition, when you learn to listen to what feels right for you, and again, like we said, it's a journey. It's not just like, right now I'm going to listen to my intuition. You learn things along the way, and as you're learning these things, you're opening yourself up, you're opening your awareness up, you're opening your consciousness up more. And when you are truly living from listening to your intuition and what feels right to you, you become a more compassionate and empathetic person. And so then you understand other people, and you can see, okay,
and you come from love.
You're coming from love, and
not fear.
Because you're coming, exactly, and because you're coming because you truly understand, I'm doing this because it feels right to me. You actually truly understand that other people are allowed to do that themselves.
Same. Yes.
Exactly. And I think that's where there will be a shift.
Yes.
When the more people that can learn to listen to their intuition and understand everything that comes behind that, because there's so much more we could go into. There's so many things, isn't there, along this journey of trusting your intuition that you come across, and that you learn. And I think that when you truly do that, that's when you become more compassionate, because along the way, as I said, when you're building your intuition, you're building your self-belief, you're building your self-love, you're building your self-worth. And when you build those things up, people's opinions matter less to you.
Oh, definitely.
But you also become more compassionate and empathetic to other people.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I think as well, because you said, oh, do you think it comes from fear? 100%, I think it comes from fear. But I also think that it's like this closed-mindedness, this inability to see the bigger picture.
Yes.
And again, this is why I'm like, my mission is to open and expand people's awareness and consciousness, because the more you know, the better you do. Like the more compassionate, the more empathetic, the more understanding you can be. And I think that when people aren't living by listening to their intuition, they're not being their authentic selves. Right? We all want to be authentic, even if, you know, some people can say, a lot of people come to me that I work with and say, I just want to be able to be my authentic self. I want to feel comfortable being authentically me. Because they've probably they've done a little bit of self-work stuff, and they realize that that's what they want. They just don't know how to get it. So obviously I can help them. But there's lots of people out there that don't even know, that aren't even aware that they want to be more authentically themselves, but it doesn't feel good. When we're not being our authentic selves, it feels wrong, it feels hard, it feels uncomfortable, and we can't articulate it. We can't even necessarily know what it is that doesn't feel good. But I'm telling you, that's what it is. I know that because that's how I felt myself. Before I started doing all of this self-development work and getting on the spiritual path, I knew something just didn't feel right, but I couldn't have told you. Oh, I didn't even have like the vocabulary to say, oh, it's because I'm not my authentic self. It's because I don't know who I am. But it just doesn't feel good. When you start being your authentic self, and you know, trusting your intuition is a big part of that. Everything feels better. It feels right. You know, everything just feels right. And I think that is a big reason, going back to what we were saying about why people have such an opinion, and it's because they're closed-minded and they don't have that bigger awareness, and it's because they're not their opinions are not coming from a place of authenticity, because they're not theirs. They've picked them up along the way for whatever reason, and they're holding on to them for whatever reason. And like you said, it's always going to be about fear, but that is why they're so pushy, and they so want other people to, they cling on to it, or they want other people to have it. Because when you're in your authentic self, and when you believe that from an authentic point of view, you don't care what other people think. You don't want to push it on other people. You don't, because you feel so happy and content within yourself that you have absolutely no desire or wish for anyone else to believe what you do, because you also understand that what you believe might not be right for them.
That's right.
And that's why I don't like pushing thoughts or telling people what to believe or what is right, because that's not what I'm here for.
No.
What I want to do is show people and make people aware that they get to choose.
Yeah.
They get to choose, and it doesn't have to be what someone else tells you. It doesn't have to be what I tell you, or what the news tells you, or what your mum and dad tell you, or what your friends tell you, what society tells you. It gets to be what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
And you get that by listening to your intuition and trusting your intuition. And your situation with your kids is a perfect example, because you were the good girl. You know, you were the one that don't do that. Don't make a fuss, because what are people going to think of us? Like, let's not be late with, you know, they're anxious you can't get them into school. No, we can't be late because what are the teachers going to think of us? I need to be a good mum. You were that person. And having your children behave like this, a lot of people might, you know, could be listening thinking, oh well, she pulled her kids out of school, like, you know, I would never do that. But please know that Becky didn't want to do it. It was the last thing. She didn't want to be homeschooling her kids. She wanted to be out walking the dog with me. She wanted to have a cup of tea and peace at home. You know, it wasn't what you wanted.
No.
And this journey that you went through, it was a battle, wasn't it? It was a battle with your programming. It was a battle with society. It was a battle with it all. And unfortunately for you, your intuition won out. But it was a journey.
Yeah, and I just think because my kids, especially Harry, is so intuitive himself and could articulate himself in such a way that he could explain what he was feeling and what his opinions were. Again, he's thinking for himself. I mean, what more could I want than a son that has critical thinking, that can sit there and decide for himself what is right for him? You know, not what I'm telling him, his dad's telling him, all his teachers are telling him, even his mates are probably telling him, oh, come on, Harry, we want you at school with us. No, he's not going to do it.
No.
And I've had to, and a bit like where I was, you know, you have a certain amount of control over your children, don't you, when they're small? And then everyone has to let go gradually. But I just had to like fast track myself to, right, boom, let go. He needs to be what he needs to be, because it was literally a matter of life and death, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I've got to this point. But just learn just a huge amount. And I, like you were saying earlier, I literally don't care. I wouldn't even listen to anybody on the telly, out, you know, down at the shops. It's like when I'm on this Facebook group for, you know, kids at home that can't get into school, and, you know, even a lot of them get so angry. Have you seen the BBC this morning talking about school attendance? And they're so angry. And I just wrote on there, well, this is why I don't listen to the BBC. You know, simple as that. Like, and even if I had listened to it, it wouldn't make me angry, because they don't know.
Exactly.
They don't know. Do you want to come and spend a day with me? And I'll show you in a nice way. You know, I'm not angry about it. I don't need to convince anybody, because it's right. And I've listened. You know, Harry was the one to teach me all the lessons, and he took the brunt of it. But
eldest child syndrome for you.
You know, I told Nicole she's got to be grateful for her brother, because he's paved the way. You know, he was having none of it, and he's taught me a hell of a lot. And also for myself, care.
Yes,
he's taught me that also.
Well, that was the most recent lesson you've learnt from this, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was them. I had my, you know, I was just, my life was dedicated to them, and that was it. I was them, which was great, but it wasn't, because I learned that they aren't me. They are their own person.
So important. Yeah,
I had to let go of my, you know, idea of this perfect child and what I was going to mold them into be. Why would I want to do that? That's not, push my own views. And, you know, obviously he knows what's right and wrong, and he's a kind boy. What more could I want? Anything else is up to him, and I'll be there to help him. But I had to let go of all of that, you know, that control, and think, well, okay, I can only control myself. Like you were saying, you know, everyone has the choice. You know, I can be there for him. I cannot control him. He needs to be who he needs to be. and I can control my own sort of state of mind and happiness, and have my own decisions to make. And that was massive as well, wasn't it?
And it's huge, and it's interesting because when we did, you won't remember because you were in hypnosis and you were out of it, aren't you? But when we did one of your past life regression sessions and spoke to your higher self, one of your lessons and your karmic lessons here was to learn to let go of to let go of that bond between you and your kids, because and really when you think about it, you were like, you felt everything for them, didn't you? You felt them as if they were you.
Definitely.
And that's not, and we were talking about this, weren't we, that there was a lot of things that didn't help when they were kids, like trying to get them into school and stuff, and you feeling their pain and their anxiety would have potentially made you be more like, you know, we kind of worked out, didn't we, that you became their regulation for their nervous system, didn't you? Because of this bond that you had with them, this close, you know, tie you had with them, everything. Where they were you, basically. And like you said, you learn that lesson in a pretty sharp, strong way, that you that's not you. And the way you learned that was that you did have to completely detach from it, because you were absorbing all of their energy, and it was tough for them, you know. It was tough, low energy, wasn't it? Heavy energy. And how could you survive and be the mum that you needed to be when you were feeling theirs as well as yours? And that was when you learned, oh my god, I can do nothing but detach now, because I can't continue to survive like that.
No.
And when you did that, everything changed, didn't it? Everything really changed. And again, I'm like thinking back to, though it was a journey, I remember like more and more you saying, I'm just gonna let it go. It is what it is. I'm just hanging on to the fact that I need him to be well, alive, and healthy. And whatever happens, I'm going to go with that. And then we would speak more about that, like, let's just put it out into the universe, that the opportunities that you need are going to come your way. And again that was easier. It's all about the intuition. Now, that was easier said than done at first, wasn't it? Because like your everything wants to control it and be like, no, I need to do this and I need to get in here. And we were just like, just let it go. When something comes that's right, your intuition will tell you. And then all of a sudden, as time went on, more and more things were just popping up and more opportunities, weren't they? And you were then able to listen to your intuition and say, that feels right. Yes, that feels right. And it wasn't necessarily what you would think it would be, like what society would say for you to do. And everything started working for you, didn't it? And the more you did that, the more I saw you just handling the situation, a very difficult, very intense, painful situation for you, because it's your children. Your children, especially, it was. I'm thinking more Harry at the time, because Nick's just, you've breezed through it, really, haven't you? You have breezed through it, but Harry was tough, and I just saw you I could feel you and see you getting more and more in control every day, less phase. Like, it's not to say that what you was going through still wasn't hard and tough on you, but you had that inner strength, that trust, that it's going to be all right. Whatever happens, it's going to be all right. And it was all right. That's when things started changing, wasn't it? Because it was going down. Like, the more you were trying to go with the system and go with society's norms and what we thought would be the best, and keep him in school and do this and do that, the worse he was getting. And it just got to a point where you were thinking, if it gets any worse, it's not going to be good. So something needs to change. And that was when you lent into, do you know what? I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let go of what I think I should be doing, and I'm going to trust my intuition. And everything went up pretty quickly after. Things were moving, wasn't it? It was like nothing in terms of, we're talking like real, you know, physical reality here. You couldn't get appointments for it privately or on the NHS. You were waiting for ages for everything. The stuff at school wasn't moving, and then all of a sudden, when you let go and started trusting your intuition, everything started coming up for you and moving.
That's right. But I had to truly let go, didn't I?
That's the journey, because you knew what you had to do, and we were talking about it, but it was like, I know I have to, but am I gonna? No, I can't. And then I almost can feel the time that you did just think, F it.
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm going to have to just let go, because if I don't
there's no other option.
Exactly. It was not going to work out well for you or for Harry, was there?
If you think about it, like, the universe literally took control of me.
100%.
So whatever that was, and I pushed back on it, and the universe was not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
And that's how, that's quite a strong experience as to listening to your intuition. But, they left me no choice. I had no other way. So that was like such a fast lesson for me. So that did fast track me.
It did, but I think you had the time before. It's like, I always say this, and I see this. I've seen it with myself, and I've seen it with my clients. The universe will give you messages, little hints and guidance through your intuition that's saying, this, you need to do this.
Yeah.
Stop doing this. You need to do this. And you don't listen.
Yes.
So it gets a bit louder.
Yeah.
And in terms of, when I say it gets a bit louder, things start manifesting in your life that are a little bit more uncomfortable, that make you feel a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you're still like, I know this is happening. There's a niggle, that niggle there where you're like, I know I shouldn't be ignoring this. Something needs to change, but oh no, it feels too uncomfortable. That's scary. I don't want to do that. I'll ignore it. Yeah. I'm sure everybody sat here thinking, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then the universe goes, you are getting off your path.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do something that's going to make you listen. So it gets louder.
Yeah.
And then it gets really uncomfortable. And from there, some people might think, right, okay, I'm going to do something. This is enough to make me change. I'll do, and whatever that situation might be, addressing a relationship, an issue in a relationship, or doing something at work, like you're in the wrong career and it's like, you should be leaving, but you can't, it could, anything like that. If you still don't listen to your intuition, and by this time, you'll feel it. Your gut, however you want to call it, is telling you, this isn't right, something needs to change, and you still don't listen, bam, they're going to smash you around the head with a massive piece of wood.
They really are.
They're going to hit you to the floor, and they're going to say, now you have to listen.
Yeah.
And it comes with
that's
love.
What happens.
And that's what happened with you, wasn't it? It wasn't happening. You weren't listening to your intuition. You were trying to
I was trying to control the situation.
Exactly.
Until I had no control.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they take it away from you. And this can manifest in loads of different things, a situation. So for like example, in a relationship, something you can't ignore, maybe the other person says, I'm leaving you, when you knew you had to leave, you had to get out because the relationship wasn't right, but you were scared to leave, and then the other person might say, oh, I'm leaving you. Or it might be you get fired from the job, and it seems like an awful thing to happen, but actually it's the best thing that could have ever happened to you, because then it leads you into actually finally being able to find that new job that was your purpose. Like it feels uncomfortable. It might make you have an accident. I see that a lot of times. You'll have some kind of accident or illness that shuts you down and makes you either see life in a different way, or shuts you down so you actually can't go anywhere, and you have to then start thinking and addressing things. There's so many ways that it does it. And but the whole point is if you don't listen to your intuition, it will get you. The universe will get you to listen, because your intuition is always trying to help you. Your intuition, as I said, is this receiver that's coming from this infinite intelligence, which is just love, which is, knows your height, knows your path, knows what's best for you, knows where you want to go. We've spoken about soul contracts in previous episodes. You have this plan, right? And it needs you to stick to the plan. There's free will, so you can go about and do whatever you want, but there's certain things that you need to get, that you've come here in this life to get done. And your intuition and the universe or your spirit guides or angels or God or whatever you want to say is helping you follow that path, because you've forgotten it, but your higher self still has it, and it's helping you follow that path by giving you this intuition. And it's why, it's so important for us all to get back to listening to our intuition, to understanding how we do it, and to really truly having that awareness, because like I said, everything starts from awareness. Having that awareness that it's there, that you can use it, that we all have it. It's not reserved for psychics and mediums and whatever we all have it. It is who you are. You are a spiritual being, and you have this intuition. And when you listen to it, life is better. Life works out for you, and you don't feel alone.
No.
You feel so guided. You feel like there is something, even if you don't know what it is, because I don't know what it is. I don't know, but I know that there is some force, there is something that is helping me and guiding me. And when I listen to my intuition, it never fails me. No. It never fails to surprise me. And it is always for my best.
Yeah.
And the problem with the world right now is that there are so many people that are walking around not realize, you can say asleep or disconnected, whatever you want, verbiage you want to use. There are so many people walking around that are not having, they've blocked off access to their intuition. And this is where the problem lies in so many ways. But if we can access our intuition, if we can understand that it's there and learn how to use it, the world will be a better place in every way.
When we first came into this world, we only had, we had our small communities, didn't we? We only had our own thoughts in our mind. Now we're bombarded.
Yes.
Wherever we go, every time you look at your phone, every time you switch your telly on, with somebody else's opinion.
Yeah.
And it's such a noise, and everyone's got such an angry opinion on everything.
That's what makes me so sad. It's all so angry, isn't it? And like you said, it's such a noise.
Yeah.
And the problem is our intuition is the opposite. It's so quiet. It's so subtle, and you can almost miss it.
Yeah.
But when you start practicing honing it, and you start practicing listening to it, you realize that it's still quiet. Yeah. Even now, I've been practicing it and using it really quite well now for about 4 years. It's still quiet. I can still miss it sometimes, but very rarely now. But it is really, really quiet. And personally, in my opinion, the best thing you can do, because you can't turn up necessarily the volume past a certain level on your intuition, let's say, the best thing you can do to help yourself is turn down the noise from everything else. Stop listening to the news. Get off of social media. If it's not lighting you up, again, going back to intuition, if it doesn't make you feel good, unfollow it. Follow. Social media has its place. Honestly, some of the most incredible things I've heard and learnt about has come from social media, but I am very, very intentional on what I follow on social media. And just because something feels right for me at one point, if it starts not feeling good to me, I will unfollow without any question. And it's like for the best, because I only want to have things that make me feel good, that expand my awareness, and that resonate as truth to me. And it's okay that if something resonated with you before and it doesn't now, it's okay to leave it. Like that's we grow. And you're coming out of alignment with that, and you move on to next. Doesn't mean that that's bad or wrong.
No.
But it's not resonating with you. Great, leave it. Find something that does. And I think that is just the most important point. Get the noise down.
Definitely.
Get the noise down while you're learning. But again, I'm all about make things easy for yourself. Make things as easy as possible. And if you can, get yourself away from the noise, get yourself away from other people's angry opinions whilst you're doing the work, you can then put yourself back in the situation, and you'll find that it doesn't bother you. You can just think that's your opinion, totally entitled to it. It's not mine. I'm going to leave that there with you, and I will choose. But you have to build up that belief in yourself. To not be swayed.
Because once upon a time, there's certain things that would have made me feel irritated or annoyed, that literally would just totally roll off my back now, and just be like, bless them.
And that's it, isn't it? It's just having compassion for other people. I can still disagree with people. There's things that I disagree with, but I don't let it bother me. No. I don't get angry or irate about it, because again, you're in control of yourself, and you are choosing to be angry. And by allowing someone else's opinion to make you angry, you are you are lowering your vibration. And when you lower your vibration, go back to everything is energy episode number 1, you're going to start attracting and aligning with things of that lower vibration. So keep it high vibrational, keep it with things that like raise you up. And most importantly, from this now, hopefully this episode, because this is just the surface, isn't it? We've just touched the surface. Hopefully with this episode, it's kind of expanded your awareness to start thinking about your intuition, start understanding that you have it. It's there, but you have to practice listening to it and honing it. And when you do, it's like this internal guidance system that leads you towards everything that's good for you. That it's a helping hand. You realize that you don't have to do it all alone, and that you have got some kind of very powerful, intelligent force. It's not just any old force. It's not your friend down the road, or, you know, it's a powerful, all-knowing, intelligent force that's full of love, that is helping you, that you can call on at any time.
And listen to them.
And listen to it. Don't listen to anybody else. No. Listen and trust that. So again, now we've opened your awareness. Our next episodes are definitely going to have to be on how you can start honing your intuition and what it feels like, what it sounds like, what you can do, some fun exercises to practice. I think that's going to have to be the next episode, isn't it? Because
it does take time.
It takes time.
You know, you get a relationship with it, don't you? You have to build a relationship.
It is building a relationship.
And get evidence. Yes. You know, once you start seeing the evidence, you're sold.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying, like, this isn't all just coming from, you know, I've read a few books or I've listened to stuff. This is from experiential, you know, knowledge. And there is nothing like actually having experiences to solidify your beliefs. Yeah. And the more it happens, the more that belief gets solidified, the better your intuition gets, because it's just like a cycle. It's like a cycle. And it's the most powerful, empowering thing that you can do, is to learn to listen to your own guidance and follow that. And start breaking down all these programmings, all these limiting beliefs that we are holding in this world. And then you can help, when you do it, you can help your children, you can help your friends, you can help your parents, your relatives, you can help everybody around you when you start doing it yourself. And that's what's amazing, isn't it? Like the ripple effect of that is incredible. And just think about what the world could be like if we all just did that.
What a wonderful place. What a wonderful world.
Oh, Becky, that was beautiful. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
and on that
Becky,
note,
everyone. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. This is everything that I wanted from this podcast when it was in its conception. Yeah. And I hope that you've kind of found it. You found it helpful, enlightening, like awareness raising, like something. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, and it's just like a small example, big example in my life, but just a little example that we could use to really hit home with that.
Hit the point.
Yeah, that's right.
But it works for everything. There's no area of your life that it cannot help you with, and it cannot make better for you. And like we said, you know, we're not about toxic positivity and everything is love and light. The world can be shit sometimes and it can throw some shit at you. Yeah. But again, as I always say, you have a choice. Yeah. You get to choose how you respond to what's thrown at you.
So true.
And we're all about empowering you to realize that you actually do have control. Yeah. So we're not saying that everything's love and light and rainbows. It's not. It's really not. As we've just explained, you know, briefly with your example. I mean, we didn't go into detail there, but that's like a really hard, tough life situation. And we maybe made light out of it, but there was it was difficult. Yeah. But having this, well, you've said yourself, it's just given you a way of getting through it, which if you didn't have this kind of thought process and this spiritual aspect and this consciousness around it, where would you be?
Where would I be?
So, anyway, we hope that you've taken something from this, whatever it may be. In fact, we would actually really love to hear what you found useful, any aha moments, what you've taken from it. Come join us in our Facebook group and let us know. We would really love to hear what you thought. And also, if you have anything that you would like us to talk about or anything you'd like to hear more on, head over into the group and just let us know, because we would love to take some requests. We've got lots of podcasts already recorded. We've got lots more ideas in the bag, but we would just love to get some of your requests in as well, because that would be fun, wouldn't it?
It would be fun
to answer your questions.
We'll talk about anything, won't we?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again next week.
Bye.